Welcome to Unhurried Minds, a quiet space for slow understanding, gentle reflection, and unforced listening. Here there is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to remember precisely, nothing you need to complete. If attention drifts, that is natural. If sleep arrives, it is welcome. This is not a lesson to master, but a landscape to move through slowly. Tonight's exploration is about memory. Not memory as storage, not memory as accuracy, but memory as a living psychological process. One that reshapes itself each time it is touched. Memory is often imagined as a place inside the mind, a vault, a shelf, an archive of experiences preserved intact. Modern psychology and neuroscience suggest otherwise. Memory is not something we retrieve unchanged. It is something we reconstruct. Each act of remembering subtly alters what is remembered. Emotion, context, and present circumstances blend with fragments of the past to create something newly formed. This does not mean memory is unreliable. It means memory is adaptive. From an evolutionary perspective, the brain did not develop memory to preserve the past for its own sake. It developed memory to help the organism survive, connect, and orient. What mattered was not precision, but relevance. Danger needed to be remembered broadly. Safety needed to be remembered warmly. Connection needed to be remembered deeply. In this way, memory became less like a recording and more like a story, one that changes slightly with each retelling, guided by meaning rather than detail. Psychological research shows that memory is deeply state-dependent. The emotional and physiological condition of the body influences what is remembered and how it is experienced. A calm nervous system recalls differently than an anxious one. A rested brain reconstructs differently than a fatigued one. This is why memories often surface at night, why childhood scenes emerge in quiet moments, why familiar sounds, smells, or rhythms can unexpectedly open doors to the past. Memory waits for safety. It waits for stillness. When the nervous system begins to soften, the mind permits itself to revisit what it has carried without urgency or defense. Throughout this episode, we will explore memory slowly and without pressure. We will examine how memories form, why they change, and why some remain vivid for decades, while others fade without resistance. We will move through personal memory, childhood memory, and shared memory, not as objects to analyze, but as experiences to gently observe. You do not need to remember any of this later. Understanding does not require effort. For now, simply notice where you are. The weight of your body, the pace of your breathing. Time does not need to be measured. This exploration will unfold at its own rhythm. Chapter 1. How Memory Forms. The brain's gentle architecture. Memory begins quietly. Not with intention and not with effort, but with exposure. At the most basic level, memory forms when the brain detects patterns that matter. A sound repeats, a face returns, a feeling accompanies an experience. Neurons respond not to single moments, but to recurrence. When an experience happens once, it passes through the nervous system and often leaves little trace. When it happens again, the brain begins to notice. From a neurological perspective, memory formation depends on connection strength. Neurons that activate together repeatedly gradually form stronger pathways. This process is often summarized by the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. But this wiring is slow. Deliberately so. If the brain recorded everything with equal intensity, it would be overwhelmed. Instead, it waits for confirmation. Repetition tells the brain, this matters. Emotion adds emphasis. Experiences paired with emotion, whether comfort, fear, joy, or surprise, are more likely to be encoded into memory. This does not mean intensity guarantees accuracy. It means emotion signals importance, not precision. In psychological terms, memory formation unfolds in stages. First comes encoding. This is the initial registration of experience. Sights, sounds, sensations, and meanings are loosely gathered. Encoding is not automatic. It is influenced by attention, mood, and context. A distracted mind encodes less. A calm mind encodes differently than an anxious one. Next comes consolidation. This is where memory becomes more stable over time. Consolidation does not happen during effort. It happens during rest, during periods of low stimulation, quiet moments, daydreaming, and especially sleep. The brain replays patterns of neural activity, not consciously, not narratively, but rhythmically. This replay strengthens certain pathways, while allowing others to fade. Finally comes retrieval. This is the act of remembering, but retrieval is not neutral. Each time a memory is recalled, it briefly becomes flexible again, open to adjustment, influenced by the present moment. This is why memory is never fixed. The brain is not interested in preservation. It is interested in usefulness. Memory exists to guide future behavior, not to preserve the past intact. Importantly, the brain does not form memories in isolation. Memory is shaped by environment. Familiar settings enhance recall. Safe environments allow deeper consolidation. Stress disrupts the process entirely. When the nervous system is overloaded, the brain shifts priorities from learning to protection. This is why chronic stress impairs memory, why fear narrows recall, why calm expands it. Memory requires permission. It requires enough safety for the brain to decide that resources can be spared for reflection. This is also why slow learning endures. When information is spaced out, revisited gently, and encountered without pressure, the brain has time to build stable architecture. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Memory, like rest, thrives under conditions of patience. As you listen now, memory is already at work, not recording sentences, but absorbing tone, rhythm, and meaning. Understanding settles first. Details are optional. In the next chapter, we will explore why memory does not stay the same, why recalling the past changes it, and how emotion quietly reshapes what we remember. Chapter 2. Why memory changes, reconstruction and emotion. Memory is often expected to be stable, a reliable record of what has already happened. But psychologically, memory is not designed to remain unchanged. It is designed to remain relevant. Each time a memory is recalled, it does not emerge fully formed from storage. Instead, it is rebuilt. Fragments of sensation, pieces of narrative, emotional tone, and present context come together to create something that feels whole. This process is known as reconstruction. Reconstruction means that remembering is also an act of updating. The brain checks old information against new conditions. What once felt threatening may now feel distant. What once felt neutral may now feel meaningful. Emotion plays a central role in this process. Memories are not stored as isolated facts. They are stored alongside emotional states. When a memory is recalled, the emotional network associated with it reactivates. This is why remembering is often felt in the body. A tightening in the chest, a warmth behind the eyes, a softening of breath. The emotion you feel now blends with the emotion you felt then. If the present emotional state is calm, the memory may soften. If the present state is anxious, the memory may sharpen or distort. This does not mean memory is inaccurate. It means memory is state-dependent. Psychological studies show that people recall different aspects of the same event, depending on mood, environment, and perceived safety. The mind is not trying to deceive. It is trying to make sense. In this way, memory functions less like a camera and more like a storyteller. Details are emphasized or minimized to preserve meaning. Importantly, this process happens without conscious control. You do not choose which details will shift. The nervous system makes that decision based on current needs. This is why repeated reflection on a memory can change how it feels over time. A memory that once carried sharp edges may gradually lose intensity as safety increases. Conversely, repeatedly revisiting a memory during stress can reinforce fear or tension. The brain strengthens what is rehearsed emotionally, not what is rehearsed factually. This is also why memories linked to strong emotion, especially fear or affection, tend to persist. Emotion signals importance, not truth but relevance. From a survival perspective, it mattered more to remember that something was dangerous than to remember every detail accurately. Likewise, remembering safety and connection helped strengthen bonds and guide future behavior. Memory changes, then not because it is weak, but because it is alive, and it is continually negotiating between past experience and present reality. In calm states, this negotiation becomes gentler. Memories integrate rather than intrude. They settle into broader narratives instead of isolated moments. This is why slow reflection, without analysis or judgment, can change the emotional weight of memory. The mind learns that it is no longer under threat. As you listen, you may notice memories drifting through awareness. There is no need to examine them. Simply noticing allows the nervous system to register that the present moment is safe. In the next chapter, we will explore why childhood memories often feel different from adult ones, and how early experiences leave sensory traces that remain quietly influential throughout life. Chapter 3. Childhood memory, early imprints and sensory traces. Childhood memory does not behave like adult memory. It is less verbal, less organized, more sensory. Many early memories do not arrive as clear narratives. They arrive as feelings, textures, sounds, moments without dates. This is because the developing brain stores experience differently. In early childhood, the neural systems responsible for language and sequencing are still forming. What develops first is sensation, touch, tone of voice, facial expression, rhythm. As a result, early memories are often implicit rather than explicit. Implicit memory operates below conscious recall. It shapes reactions and expectations without producing clear images or stories. A familiar smell may evoke comfort without explanation. A particular tone may trigger unease without context. These responses are not learned consciously. They are remembered somatically. From a psychological perspective, early experiences establish templates, not beliefs, but patterns. Patterns about safety, about connection, about whether the world feels predictable or uncertain. Because children rely heavily on caregivers, emotional memory forms quickly and deeply. Repeated experiences, being soothed, ignored, protected, or startled, shape the nervous system's baseline. This does not mean childhood determines everything. It means childhood sets initial conditions. Later experiences can soften, revise, or reinforce these patterns. Importantly, childhood memory is not fixed in adulthood. It continues to change. As the adult brain revisits early memories, new understanding overlays old sensation. What once felt confusing may later feel understandable. What once felt overwhelming may feel distant. This process is not about reinterpretation alone. It is about integration. The brain weaves early sensory memory into a larger narrative of self. This is why some childhood memories return during moments of calm. When the nervous system feels safe, it allows older material to surface without alarm. Quiet environments invite early memory. Late evening, dim light, soft sound. The brain recognizes conditions similar to those under which early memory formed. Importantly, childhood memories are often remembered inaccurately in detail, but accurately in feeling. The emotion is preserved, even if the sequence is not. This is not a failure of recall. It is a reflection of how memory prioritized experience. The brain remembered what it felt like to be there. Over time, these emotional memories influence adult behavior subtly. Preferences, aversions, comfort rituals, not as commands, but as inclinations. Understanding this allows gentleness. When a reaction feels automatic or puzzling, it may be rooted not in current circumstances, but in earlier patterns. Quietly resurfacing, awareness does not require excavation, simply noticing. That memory can exist without words is often enough. As the nervous system continues to encounter safety, implicit memory becomes less reactive. It does not disappear, it settles. In the next chapter, we will explore the role of sleep in memory, how the brain uses rest to stabilize, soften, and reorganize what it has absorbed. Chapter 4, Sleep and Memory, the Brain's Night Work. Sleep is not an interruption to memory. It is one of memory's most important stages. While the waking mind rests, the brain remains active, quietly sorting, strengthening, and reshaping experience. From a psychological and neurological perspective, sleep is when memory becomes stable. During waking hours, experiences are loosely encoded. They are fragile, easily disrupted. Sleep provides the conditions under which memory can consolidate. This process does not involve conscious replay. The brain does not revisit experiences as stories. Instead, it reactivates patterns of neural activity, subtle rhythms that echo the day's experiences. These patterns strengthen some connections and weaken others. What is repeated emotionally or encountered consistently is reinforced. What is isolated or irrelevant is allowed to fade. This is not loss, it is refinement. Different stages of sleep contribute differently to memory. Deep, slow-wave sleep is associated with the consolidation of factual and spatial memory. This is where the brain stabilizes learning. Lighter stages of sleep and periods of dreaming are associated with emotional integration. Here, memory becomes flexible, less literal, more symbolic. This is why insights sometimes emerge after rest, why problems feel different in the morning, why emotional memories soften with time. Sleep allows the brain to integrate memory without urgency. Importantly, sleep does not simply strengthen memory, it regulates it. Strong emotional memories can be decoupled from their original intensity. The narrative remains, but the emotional charge reduces. This is one reason why adequate sleep supports emotional resilience. When sleep is disrupted, memory consolidation is impaired. The brain remains in a state of partial alertness. Experiences are not fully processed. Emotional memories retain sharp edges. Over time, this can lead to rumination, the repeated mental replay of unresolved material. Rest is what completes the process. This is why calm listening at night can feel different from daytime learning. The mind is no longer preparing to act, it is preparing to integrate. Listening without effort allows memory to settle, rather than accumulate. There is no need to remember details. The brain absorbs tone, rhythm, and meaning. Understanding arrives implicitly. This is also why memory often surfaces during the transition to sleep. As external demands fade, the mind releases its grip on the present and allows unresolved material to drift upward. This is not a sign of restlessness. It is a sign of processing. When allowed to pass without engagement, these memories often settle naturally. Sleep does not require control, only conditions, softness, consistency, predictability. As you listen now, the brain is already preparing for rest. Memory is not being asked to perform, it is being given space. In the next chapter, we will explore how emotion and the nervous system shape which memories persist and why some experiences remain vivid, while others quietly recede. Chapter 5, Emotional Memory and the Nervous System. Not all memories are treated equally. Some pass through the mind with little trace. Others remain vivid, returning again and again without invitation. The difference is not importance in hindsight, but arousal at the time of experience. Emotional memory is shaped primarily by the nervous system. When an experience activates strong emotion, fear, affection, surprise, relief, the body responds before thought occurs. Heart rate changes, breathing shifts, muscles prepare. This physiological response signals to the brain that something meaningful is happening. From a neurological perspective, this signaling involves interaction between emotional centers and memory systems. The brain prioritizes encoding during heightened arousal. This prioritization is protective. Remembering danger helped survival. Remembering comfort strengthened bonds. Remembering connection guided return. However, emotional intensity does not guarantee clarity. High arousal narrows attention. Details outside the emotional focus may be missed or distorted. What remains is the emotional core of the experience. This is why emotionally charged memories often feel vivid, yet incomplete. The nervous system remembers how the body felt. Importantly, the nervous system does not distinguish between past and present during recall. When a memory is reactivated, the body may respond as though the event is occurring now. This is why certain memories produce physical sensations long after the event has passed. Tightness, warmth, heaviness. These responses are not signs of weakness. They are signs of memory operating as designed. Over time, the nervous system learns through repeated exposure to safety when emotional memories are recalled. In calm conditions, the body updates its response. The memory remains, but the physiological reaction softens. This process does not require analysis, it requires regulation. A settled nervous system teaches the brain that the experience no longer demands action. This is why emotional healing often happens indirectly, through rest, through routine, through gentle repetition of safety, not through force. When the nervous system remains chronically activated, emotional memories may dominate awareness. The brain continues to flag them as unresolved. This is not because the memory is broken. It is because the system has not received clear signals of safety. Calm environments reduce this signal. Slow speech, predictable rhythm, low stimulation. These conditions allow emotional memory to be integrated rather than replayed. As you listen now, your nervous system is receiving cues. There is no demand, no urgency, no evaluation. This context matters. It allows memory to reorganize quietly without interference. In the next chapter, we will explore an often misunderstood process: forgetting. Not as failure, but as a necessary psychological function that protects clarity, balance, and meaning. Chapter 6. Forgetting as a psychological function. Forgetting is often treated as a loss, a failure of memory, a sign that something has slipped away. Psychologically, forgetting serves a purpose. The brain does not forget at random. It forgets selectively. If every experience remained equally accessible, the mind would become overwhelmed. Clarity requires a mission. From a neurological perspective, forgetting is not the erasure of memory, but the weakening of access. Neural pathways that are not revisited gradually lose strength. This is not decay, it is efficiency. The brain preserves what is useful, emotionally relevant, or repeatedly reinforced. Everything else recedes into the background. This process allows attention to remain flexible. Without forgetting, new learning would be impossible. Old patterns would dominate, adaptation would stall. Forgetting is how the brain makes room. Importantly, forgetting does not always mean disappearance. Some memories become inaccessible rather than absent. They influence behavior indirectly through preference, reaction, or mood, without entering awareness. This is why something can feel familiar without being remembered explicitly. Forgetting also protects emotional balance. Repeated access to emotionally charged memory keeps the nervous system activated, allowing certain details to fade, reduces physiological burden. The emotional meaning may remain without constant reactivation. This is particularly important for painful or stressful experiences. Over time, the brain reduces their accessibility when safety is re-established. This is not repression, it is regulation. Forgetting supports recovery. In everyday life, forgetting is guided by use. Information not applied is deprioritized. This is why learning spaced over time endures longer than learning compressed into intensity. The brain interprets repetition as a signal of relevance. Without repetition, forgetting proceeds naturally. This principle extends beyond facts. Social interactions, routines, habits, patterns that are not reinforced quietly dissolve. Forgetting is not passive. It is active maintenance. This is why gentle exposure, rather than constant rehearsal, often leads to emotional relief. The mind learns that it does not need to return. As you listen now, there is no need to remember what came before. Understanding does not require accumulation. The brain will retain what matters and release what does not. This is not something to manage consciously. Forgetting works best when it is not resisted. In the next chapter, we will expand from individual memory to collective memory, how groups, cultures, and communities remember together. Chapter 7, Collective Memory and Shared Narratives. Memory does not exist only within individuals. It also lives between people. Stories passed down, rituals repeated, moments remembered together. This is known as collective memory. Collective memory refers to the shared understanding a group holds about its past, not as an objective record, but as a meaningful narrative. Families, communities, and cultures all maintain collective memories. These memories guide identity, values, and expectation. They are reinforced through language and tradition and repetition. Importantly, collective memory is shaped, less by accuracy and more by significance. Events that carry symbolic meaning are remembered and retold. Details shift, emphasis changes. The story adapts to the needs of the present. This does not mean collective memory is false. It means it is functional. From a psychological perspective, shared memory strengthens belonging. Remembering together confirms membership. It tells individuals you are part of this. Rituals serve this function powerfully. Annual events, ceremonies, repeated phrases. These anchor memory in the body. The nervous system learns familiarity through rhythm and repetition. This is why traditions feel grounding. They reduce uncertainty by linking the present to something known. Collective memory also regulates emotion. Shared grief becomes bearable when it is held together. Shared celebration amplifies meaning. Memory, when distributed, carries less weight per person. This principle extends to storytelling. When experiences are narrated socially, they become organized. The mind gains structure. This is why telling a story often changes how it feels. Collective memory also evolves. As social values shift, so do the stories emphasized. What is remembered reflects what a group needs to understand itself. This is not distortion, it is adaptation. Importantly, collective memory influences individual memory. The way events are discussed publicly shapes how they are recalled privately. This is especially true in childhood, when personal memory is still forming. Shared narratives provide context. They teach which memories matter. In quiet moments, these collective traces remain. Songs remembered, phrases echoed, images familiar without origin. They offer continuity. As you listen now, you are participating in a shared experience. Even alone listening connects you to others who have listened before and will listen after. This sense of shared time is itself a form of collective memory. In the next chapter, we will turn inward again to how memory shapes identity and the feeling of being the same person over time. Chapter 8, Memory, Identity, and the Sense of Self. The sense of self feels continuous. You wake each day with the quiet assumption that you are the same person you were yesterday. Psychologically, this continuity is created by memory. Identity is not a fixed structure, it is a process, maintained through remembered experience. Memory provides the thread that connects past moments to the present one. Without memory, there would be sensation but no story. The brain constructs identity by linking experiences across time, preferences, values, roles. These are not stored in one place. They emerge from patterns of recall. Importantly, identity memory is selective. The mind does not recall every moment equally. It prioritizes experiences that support a coherent narrative. This narrative does not need to be accurate. It needs to be stable. Psychological research shows that people tend to remember experiences that confirm their sense of who they are. Contradictory memories are often softened, reframed, or forgotten. This is not self-deception, it is self-maintenance. A stable identity allows prediction. It reduces cognitive load. Knowing who you are simplifies decision-making. Memory supports this by reinforcing familiar patterns. However, identity is not rigid. As memory changes, identity shifts. New experiences introduce new information. Old interpretations are updated. This is why personal growth often involves revisiting memory, not to relive it, but to integrate it differently when earlier experiences are remembered. From a calmer or more informed perspective, the narrative adjusts. The past does not change, the meaning does. This process happens gradually. Identity evolves through countless small revisions rather than sudden insight. Importantly, memory also allows continuity. Without requiring constant awareness, you do not need to recall your life story to feel like yourself. Implicit memory, habits, preferences, emotional patterns, maintains identity quietly. This is why change can feel subtle. The self reorganizes without announcement. Memory also allows flexibility. Even as identity feels stable, it remains adaptable. The mind preserves enough continuity to feel grounded while allowing enough change to grow. When memory integration is disrupted through trauma, chronic stress, or exhaustion, identity can feel fragmented. This is not because the self is broken, but because memory has not been given the conditions required for integration. Safety restores coherence. As you listen now, there is no need to define who you are. Identity does not require effort. It is maintained automatically through memory's quiet work. In the next chapter, we will explore memory not as storage or identity, but as connection. How remembering binds us to meaning, to others, and to rest. Chapter 9, Memory as Connection, Meaning and Belonging. Memory is not only about the past, it is about connection. Through memory, experiences do not end when they pass. They remain available, not as replicas, but as sources of meaning. Memory connects moments across time. It links people to places, events to emotion, and experience to identity. This connective function is subtle. Often, memory does not announce itself as recollection. It appears as familiarity, as comfort, as a quiet sense of recognition. A place feels welcoming without explanation. A voice feels trustworthy without analysis. These responses are memory at work. Psychologically, memory allows belonging. Belonging does not arise solely from present interaction. It emerges from accumulated experience. Shared history, even if loosely remembered, creates depth. This is why long relationships feel different from new ones, even in silence. Memory fills the space between moments. Connection also extends inward. Through memory, the mind recognizes continuity. You are not beginning again each day. You are arriving with a history already integrated. This continuity reduces uncertainty. It allows rest. Memory also supports meaning-making. Experiences gain significance when placed in context. Isolated events can feel overwhelming. Integrated events become understandable. Memory provides this integration. It allows the mind to locate experience within a broader pattern. This does not require interpretation. Meaning emerges naturally when memory is allowed to settle. This is why reflection without judgment often brings clarity. Memory organizes itself when pressure is removed. Connection through memory also softens isolation. Remembering moments of safety, care, or understanding provides reassurance. During uncertainty, the nervous system recognizes that safety has existed before and can exist again. This is not optimism, it is recall. Memory reminds the system that experience extends beyond the present moment. Importantly, memory does not require vivid imagery to provide connection. Even vague recollection, a sense of having been supported, of having understood, of having rested, is enough. As you listen now, memory may be operating quietly, not recalling details, but reinforcing the feeling. That time is continuous, and that experience is coherent. This sense of belonging to oneself, to others, to time itself, is one of memory's most important roles. In the final chapter, we will bring this exploration to rest, considering memory not as effort or recall, but as a process that naturally quiets when it has been given space. Chapter 10. Memory at Rest, Letting the Mind Settle. Memory does not require attention to do its work. It does not need rehearsal, effort, or precision. When given space, memory organizes itself. Throughout this exploration, memory has been described not as storage, but as process, a living system that adapts, integrates, and releases without instruction. At rest, memory is most effective when the nervous system softens. The brain no longer needs to prioritize protection or prediction. It can turn inward, patterns settle, connections stabilize, unnecessary detail fades. What remains is meaning without strain. This is why stillness supports memory. Not active stillness, not effortful focus, but passive ease, the kind that allows thoughts to drift without engagement. In these conditions, memory no longer competes for attention. It integrates quietly. There is no need to retrieve, no need to evaluate, no need to decide what matters. The brain handles that automatically. This is also why memory often feels gentler after rest. The same recollection carries less weight, less urgency, not because it has been erased, but because it has been placed. Memory has found its context. Letting memory rest does not mean forgetting what is meaningful. It means releasing what is no longer required. To remain active, the system becomes efficient, balanced. As you listen now, there is nothing left to do. The story does not need to be followed. The chapters do not need to be remembered. Understanding has already occurred at the level it needed to. If sleep arrives, memory will continue its work without awareness. If wakefulness remains, the mind can simply remain present without task. Memory does not ask for control, only conditions: quiet, safety, predictability. These have already been provided. You may notice a sense of completion, not as an ending but as a settling, like a book gently closed without needing to recall its contents. Memory will keep what it needs. It always does. There is nothing you need to carry forward. The mind knows how to rest.